Welcome to The Business Strategist, the show that gives business owners and entrepreneurs game-changing business strategies that can be used in scaling and transforming a business. Sharing deep dive conversations with industry experts, thought leaders and clients, facing real challenges and uphill struggles. Brought to you by business strategist, former elite athlete, international speaker, and best-selling author, Adam Strong.
What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, bringing incredible guests from all over the world. So sit back, relax, and tune in. My next guest is a business strategist, best-selling author, entrepreneur, international speaker, also a podcast host, and a former elite athlete. Please welcome Adam Strong. Adam, welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here. I'm excited to chime into your audience and looking forward to having some fun.
Me too. So first of all, I always like to have my guests that are from other places in the world. Please tell the audience where you're joining us from.
Yeah, so I'm British. So I've got a British accent, but I'm actually living in Cyprus, which is in between Greece and Turkey in the Mediterranean.
Very cool. Well, thank you for being here for us today. Your background is very unique. I talk to many elite athletes. I've talked to a few, some former professional athletes, elite athletes. So you've actually trained with Olympic and world champion coach, right? I want to hear a little bit about that journey of being an elite athlete and how that helped you in transforming yourself into a business strategist. Because I feel like there's a lot of key elements there as an athlete that help you succeed in business.
Absolutely. Well, it started off when I was younger.
Yeah.
So I started off, I went through what I call a midlife crisis at the age of 11. Sounds completely delusional, right? But it happened to me. So my background is that I actually grew up living off the state. So I didn't have a particular lot of my family didn't have a lot of money, and I had a lot of stress and anxiety when I was younger. So my mum suffered from long-term depression, and so at the age of 10, I actually had alopecia. So I'd lost my hair through stress and worry and anxiety. All right, I remember the first time that this happened to me. The first time it happened to me, when I woke up one morning, my hair came out in handfuls, and it was all gone.
That's terrible.
It's crazy. It had a massive impact on my confidence, as you can imagine, being 10 years old, right?
For sure.
And so that was kind of like the first catalyst for moving what we're going to in terms of conversation. So at the age of 11, when I was a young boy, by the way, I was very introverted. I was kind of shy. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't that confident because I'd gone through those. I'd had a lot of worries. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I'd gone through the foster care and things like that. So, so it was, and obviously when you're 10, 11 years old, you're starting to go through puberty and things like that. So lots of things happening, life lessons. But at the age of 11, I got into distance running. Okay. It's an interesting story because it was through the encouragement of my father that I got into distance running. But when I was younger, I didn't have mentors. I didn't have the support structures in place, right, around family or people that you look up to. Do you know what I mean, Deanna? So, I didn't have that. And so I turned up at the running track one day, and I remember it was a clubhouse, and in the clubhouse they had this there was this counter, and the counter looked about 12 feet because I wasn't the tallest boy in the world. And this counter looked like a towering inferno. And this lady peeped over the counter, and she's like, hey, how can I help you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm interested in joining your athletics club. And she's like, okay, interesting. She's like, what discipline are you interested in? I was like, well, I've been told distance running is pretty cool. She's like, okay, that's cool. She says, have you got any experience? I went, no. I said, but there's a snag. I said, what's the snag? And I said to her, I'm an asthma sufferer. So I suffer from asthma. So I was like,
really?
Literally, yeah, really bad asthma, right? And what was interesting about this is she turned around and she said, she kind of like, she was one of those things. She's like, don't worry about it. I'm going to introduce you to one of the coaches. I'm like, okay, no worries. All good.
Yeah.
So there's me kind of walking down with this lady who's just talking to me. And as I'm walking down towards the running track, I'm seeing all of these different athletes, sprinters, field athletes, distance runners. And already in my mind, I'm already thinking to myself, this was a bad move, right? I'm already making a judgment. I'm already thinking, there's no way I'm going to be as good as these guys. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm thinking. This is 11 years old, right? And then she introduced me to my coach, and his name was Alex McGee. And Alex was, back in the day, he basically turned average Joe blogs, which is me, into champions. Okay. And within the first 3 months, I'll be honest with you, first 3 to 4 months was tough, like, because my lungs hadn't adapted.
Sure.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I could barely run 100 meters.
Wow.
Right. That was the problem. And so I couldn't get I didn't have the capacity. My body was finding it very hard to adapt. But interestingly enough, about 3 more months later, I met another similar boy who'd come from Somalia. And he come from Somalia because Somalia at the time was a place of war, and he wanted to get away from the war and stuff. And so his parents sent him away to go live with his aunt in the UK. All right. And so this guy, his name was Mo. And his name's Mo Farah, for those guys that don't know who he is. But Mo Farah is, when I met him at the age of 11, he had similar background. So he could barely speak any English, was always bullied at school, low in confidence. It was kind of like my brother in a way, because we had similar skill sets. Yeah. And what we did, this was interesting. What we did is we effectively used I wouldn't call them weaknesses, but our life experiences in being bullied and having no confidence. And we used that as a competitive weapon and used it with each other so that we can become better people, so we can increase our confidence, so we can increase our self-discipline and be the best versions of ourselves. Yeah. This was all at the age of 11. And so within 6 months, my asthma had completely disappeared. And within 24 months, me and Mo were running at national and international level for the country.
Holy cow.
Right? So at the age of 11, I put in the hard work. So all the kids that are playing video games, right? Yeah. In the evening time, after school, they play video games. And I love video games back in the age of 11, right? But I was so disciplined. I decided to put the hard work in. And I'm glad I did, because that was kind of the main, I suppose, stepping stone that helped me to move into things like entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So that discipline and that focus with Mo, I'm assuming helped boost your confidence quite a bit.
Absolutely. Not just confidence, but we're talking like, some of the things that entrepreneurs desire, where we talk about skill set, right? We're not just talking about mindset. We're talking about entrepreneurial skills that effectively set you up for success, whatever success looks like to you, right? Sure. So I managed to, I suppose, I wouldn't say master them. I was always a student. I'm still a student, but I managed to master and get a competitive edge on the importance of resilience, on focus, on self-discipline, right? All of those things that we talk about on podcasting, with interviews, with guests and stuff. We talk about all this all the time. Right. The only difference between people talking about it, I experienced it at a much, much younger age. Yeah. So there you go.
Experienced a lot at a young age. Just, how traumatic have your hair fall out. You had your father and mother, but you were still in the foster care system.
Right, exactly.
That's heavy. So, wow. So now after your athletic days, did you jump right into entrepreneurship, or what was that journey like for you?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Believe it or not, I said to you at the beginning, I went through a midlife crisis, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
at that same age, aged 11, I started up my first company.
Get out. Wow. I love it.
Okay. As you do, right? So let me quickly tell you the backstory. So where we lived not far from a nature reserve. The nature reserve was right next to a golf course. It was an 18-hole golf course, right? And so because, as I said to you, I wasn't, I was a kind of an uncomfortable young lad. Didn't really have a lot of friends. Just one weekend I was out just taking a walk, as you do. Mm-hmm. And I started, and I don't know if it was a message from the universe or I don't know, but whatever. I started seeing all these golf balls appear in the river and the streams as I was walking along. I'm like, is that a sign from God or whatever? And so next day I decided to go back with a bucket and I started collecting all these golf balls, right? So some of the water levels would come up to beyond my knees and up to my waist sometimes. I didn't have, right equipment or resources. I just decided to collect these golf balls, just for fun. And then I decided, as I was walking and foraging through the bushes, I started walking along the edge of the fairway of the golf course. Yeah. And this particular golf club at the time, it was full of retirees. The average age was like 74. They must have had a handicap of plus 20, right? So they're recreational golfers, right? But hey, in the world of sport, no one likes to lose, especially if you're budding up, right? So I remember the first time this has happened to me, Don. What I'm doing is I'm walking along the edge fairway, and I have two elderly gentlemen running over, right? Literally running over. Kind of like waving their arms at me frantically, saying, hey, hey, hey. I'm like, what the hell's going on type of thing. And then they come over and they're like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, well, I find lost golf balls. That's what I do.
Yeah.
And he was like, that's interesting. Well, are you prepared to sell your golf balls? I'm like, never really thought about it, but sure. Right. Yeah. And then they started. Right. And then this is how I started learning some new skills. As I start through my first negotiation, I started after my first encounter, I started doing some research about golf balls. I'm not a golfer, right? Okay. And I learned about brand, or the importance of brand. I learned about the fact that the customer likes quality. They like the fact that condition's important, right? And guess what? If you're a golfer, you know that golf balls are freaking expensive. Yes. Right? You can talk about 15, 20 bucks for a ball, right? I mean, we're talking big bucks, right? And so what I started doing is I started to practice my sales and negotiation tricks. Okay. All right. So they'll put in an offer and I'll be like, really? I mean, this ball, it's a Slazenger. I know it's worth 15 bucks. I mean, seriously, you're offering me like $3. I mean, no. And so I'd be prepared to walk away and they'd be like, right? It's like kind of taking a toy from a child. Yeah. Right. No one likes that experience. Okay. Right. And then they'll come back to the negotiating table. And then we'll come back to, then we'll find a middle ground where we're both happy. The first time that this happened to me, right? I kid you not, I goes back home and I've got loads of coins in my pockets, right? My mum starts to interrogate me and she's like, what the hell did you do? Yeah. Did you do, like, you know what a parent's like? It's like, did you do something bad? Right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, did you rob a bank? And I told her the story and she's like super proud of me. And just kind of from that day forward, I contributed towards groceries, milk and bread and things like that, because that's what we needed. So that was kind of the backstory of my first taste of entrepreneurship.
Wow. Now you own 3 different businesses.
I do. Right now I do.
What kind of businesses do you have?
Well, my first business, which is as you mentioned at the beginning, I'm an award-winning business strategist. So one of the things that just from my 30 years of experience in running my own businesses and scaling up, and also through the life lessons of athletics as well, I love working with your attorney or your advisor or your accountant, your CPA type of thing. And one of my big visions, should we say, over the next 3 years is to work with 1,000 different types of advisory board type of businesses and help them to scale to 7 figures. So that's kind of the big vision, should we say.
That's awesome.
So
a lot of entrepreneurs or corporations?
It's mainly kind of entrepreneurial leaders that are running kind of like your professional services firm.
Sure.
So we run a mastermind for that. So that's kind of, I love doing that. Like just working with group people, it just fills my boat. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that's, I suppose, one side of my business that I do. The other side of my business, I do some property, of course, and real estate here in the Mediterranean. So, I mean, it's a great opportunity. Who doesn't want 320 days of all year round sun? I mean, it's stupid not to, right?
Yeah. I'll take it. So, I hate the cold.
There you go. Yeah. You see, I've already got one buyer. And then the third business that I actually work with is I work in the world of blockchain and AI technology. So that's a really fantastic project that I'm working with a company in London. And we're just educating people around how to create passive and semi-passive income streams. Because, I mean, who doesn't want more income streams at the end of the day, especially when you're an entrepreneur? Yeah. So those are my 3 mini projects that I'm working on right now. And I love it.
Amazing. Are you still an athlete?
Do you know what? I don't do running to the levels that I was doing. I actually, do you know what? It's interesting. This year, I set myself physical challenges, Deanna. I'd like to do that. The reason for that, I suppose, is in a way, in an ego way, right? Yeah. Basically, every year I set a challenge, and the challenge is that I need to prove to myself that I've still got it, right? Yeah. That's my ego within myself, right? But actually, it's good for my mental health. It's good for my energy levels and all of that kind of stuff. So this year I did adventure racing. Okay. I'm not sure if you know what adventure racing is.
I think I have an idea, but you want to explain it to us?
You have an idea?
Well, you explain it to us.
Yeah, it's a bit like a triathlon. It's a bit like a triathlon, but it's a bit more extreme. So it's essentially 4 activities. So it is a combination of trail running, so off-road running, mountain biking, and kayaking, as well as orienteering. So you have a map and you have a compass, and you get to the certain checkpoints within the 3 disciplines.
Very cool.
So it's very cool. We have a what do you call it? We have a set time. So this year I decided to do the elite category, and it took me around 6 hours. Holy cow. So, it's not for the faint-hearted, I can tell you that. So, but the other thing I started taking up is CrossFit. So I wanted to, oh my gosh, seriously crazy, like CrossFit. I remember the first few sessions, I walked around like I shit my pants. I kid you not, it was so sore. But it's a lot of fun, type of thing. So, it's kind of cool though. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing now.
Amazing. I love that. And I feel like for people like us that are kind of type A, that there always is a level of physical activity in what we do that helps give us an edge in the businesses that we have and how to grow them. Absolutely. And I think that's like a real key thing for a lot of people who are in business. I want to highlight one thing. You say in your bio, you're a champion for supporting women and becoming the best man for supporting women in business in 2016. And you were featured on the front cover of Influential People magazine, Steer magazine, and Global Man magazine, BBC Radio, et cetera, et cetera. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, absolutely. Well, there's a couple of spins to that. So I'll tell you about the empowering women part. So back in, when was it? Must have been around 2014, 2015. I was actually in the world of high performance coaching. So what does that mean in context? So one of the things that our company did at the time was in the corporate well-being space.
Okay.
All right. So we was offering high performance coaching for organizations, mainly. That's what we were doing. Yeah. And there was a well-being element to this. All right.
Okay.
And one of the innovative ideas I came up with one year was I needed to get in front of the key decision makers. Now, I didn't have any contacts. I was too early on LinkedIn. So I didn't have the relationships. I didn't come from corporate.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the key necessity partnerships in place to be able to, use that as a stepping stone to get into companies, right?
Sure.
So one of my ideas, and this is, again, great for your listeners, especially if you're trying to reinvent yourself, is to spend some time trying to think to yourself, how can I be more innovative in my company?
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I decided to do was I thought to myself, who has access to key decision makers within the company?
Yeah.
Right? Who are the decision makers? Normally they're senior management, they're CEOs, they're the persons that writes the checks out effectively,
Yeah.
right? Who are the main gatekeepers? They are the executive and personal assistants, right?
Sure.
That's what they are, right? They're the ones that are basically in charge of the diary. So I decided to create an association, and the association was called this. Hang on a second. The extraordinary, hang on a minute. Let me just double check what I'm saying is. The Association of Extraordinary PAs is what I called it.
Oh, wow. I like that.
And then yeah, you like that, right? And the banner was like Wonder Woman, and the woman, there was a woman on the banner, and she had a cape around herself, right? So you can envisage that. And so what I found through market research, is that personal assistants and executive assistants, they don't get paid enough, they don't get recognized enough, and they're kind of like, they're not valued enough in their organizations. So I felt like I needed to create an association which will help them with their personal growth and their personal development, but to champion them.
Yeah.
So I created this association, and every month what we did is we ran free events. I got sponsorship. Wow. It was literally, I managed to get sponsorship from hotels. I mean, I didn't spend a single penny, a single dime on advertising or anything, right?
Yeah.
And so just through the relationship building, because relationships is a long-term game, right?
Yep,
okay.
Sure is.
And through trust, okay, we started to get introductions to organizations. And it was through that innovative way. All right. So that was and then obviously I got an award for that. I think it was just down to my, I don't know, smart innovation. I don't know, whatever. But that was the first part of that. Okay. And I'd probably say over the last 6 years or so, I've very much focused, and I think this is something that everyone should focus on, is building personal brand, And so, as you rightly pointed out at the very beginning, I am a best-selling author. I've got 3 best-selling books out. As you mentioned, I am a podcast host, and it's just through building and giving content out freely and openly, but also understanding. This is important, because if you understand your key clients, your audience, like they are your best friend, you know their core values, you know what's important to them, you know their pain points, and you start creating content, then you start to put yourself on people's radars. All right.
Exactly.
So you know what I mean? So with the magazines and some of the media that you'd mentioned, actually, we was a PR agency that we worked with, did a great job in just kind of getting the message out there a little bit. I managed to get featured in Forbes magazine as well. So, it was a great time, purely because they saw a great message. And this was based around, sort of the last sort of 2-3 years, during kind of the pandemic and things like that, just because we created such an empowering summit that we created. And that was just purely free for people, just to kind of get them back into a state of momentum and flow. And we just got so much great free press off the back of that, which was amazing. So that's basically how it's come about.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much I think where there's those women that don't have voices, you are able to be a very big voice for them. And I love it when a man is championing and empowering women. I think it means a lot. It actually goes a little bit longer of a way than sometimes women empowering each other. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
As a podcast host, what is the name of your show and what can people expect when they tune in?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, the name of the show is called The Game Changers Experience. However, I haven't told you this, but I'm going through a massive rebrand at the moment.
Okay.
So we're going to be, and I'm happy to share with your listeners what it's going to be called. So we're going to be rebranding the podcast called The Business Strategist, because it says what it is on the tin.
Yeah.
And the premise around the podcast really is again, it's kind of based around the premise of helping 100,000 six-figure entrepreneurs, experienced business owners, to get to that magic, $1 million business turnover. But I want people to feel like, that they can do it, right? That they've got the knowledge, know-how, that they have someone backing their corner in terms of like the really good quality content, whether it be marketing, whether it be branding, whether it be personal growth, scaling up, or whatever it is. But effectively, that is the main vision around it. So I'm excited about it, in all honesty. I'm really excited about it, and what that's going to kind of like, what the spin off the back of that is. And probably it's the same for you. We both love creating content, right? We do it freely and openly. And I used to think, and I don't know about you, but I used to think that content was a complete waste of time.
It's a world we live in now.
It's a completely different world now. And it's, and I just came to that realization. I think it was like about 4 years ago. I started putting some content out, I started getting some real results. And then I just thought to myself, well, maybe this content malarkey isn't so overrated as it says on the tin type of thing. And that's kind of how I got into podcasting, actually. And just now, I was speaking with somebody else actually today, and they asked me, they're like, so how many interviews have you done? And just over the last 3 years, just in the last 3 years, I've done in excess of over 1,000 episodes, not just on podcasting, but just, and it's just probably the same for you as well. Being invited to speak on certain platforms and summits. But I love it. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that when you have a message that's important, and you feel that it's people are being drawn to you, that it's your responsibility to continue to put that information, put that content out there, because I believe we all have an audience, and it's important. It's important to share your message with people, because it helps. Your message is very powerful. You had a choice when you were younger. You could have went down a very bad path as a young kid that experienced that trauma, your hair falling out, being in the foster home, but you decided to go another direction that really set you up for success. And those were labels that you could have owned for the rest of your life, right? And so, like, hence the label free, where you decided not to let that, steer you in the wrong direction. So I think it's a beautiful thing. Adam, where can people find you, connect with you, listen to your podcast, and learn more about you?
Yeah, appreciate that. I think the best platform to come and follow me on is on LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. And we're going to be doing some more stuff on YouTube as well. I know that's one of your favorite platforms as well. Or alternatively, you can check out my website, adamstrong.net.
Perfect. You guys, I'm going to put those links in the show notes. So go connect with him on LinkedIn. Go check out his website. And if you're interested in his books and go listening to his podcast, go check out his website. I'm sure all the information will be there. Adam, this is the part of the show where I like to ask for last words of wisdom or advice. What would you like to leave with us today?
Yeah, that's probably the hardest question out of today's show, but I appreciate you asking me.
Okay.
Last words of wisdom. I think for me, my last words of wisdom would be move forwards, always move forwards, because if you're not moving forwards, it's like this, and you may have heard this analogy before. If you're not growing, you're dying.
Yes.
Okay. That includes, by the way, standing still and staying plateau. You're dying. Okay. All right. So what are you doing to shift the needle every day? What are you doing to move forwards every day? What are the things that you're doing to upskill yourself? What are the things that you're doing to add more value? What are the things that you're doing to be a better version of yourself? So it's a really important question to ask yourself, okay? Because if you don't ask really important questions, then we start to turn off our, what I call, brand awareness radar, because the more aware that we are as people, the more that we know how to effectively, we know our strengths, but we also know how to make improvements to make that extra fine margin in terms of moving forward. It's like athletics. You know, you don't talk about the person that won the silver medal. You always talk about the person that win the gold medal. So that's my point. So I hope that helps.
I love that. Yeah. Always be moving forward. I believe that wholeheartedly. I don't ever want to sit still, because I feel like we should always be just focused on becoming better and growing and moving forward in our lives. Adam, what an incredible man you are. Holy cow. Just like jack of all trades, like, geez, Louise, and the master of them all, clearly. So thank you so much for sharing your story. And thank you for being strong at a very young age and not allowing those traumatic things to hold you back. And now you are an incredible example of what perseverance and resilience looks like.
Appreciate that. Appreciate the conversations. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu, Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, don't forget to subscribe, follow, rate, review, comment, share, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.
Thanks for listening to The Business Strategist with Adam Strong. Follow Adam on LinkedIn, YouTube, and adamstrong.net. Leave a review on Apple or Spotify.